morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the next in our State of the Nation webinar series. We are really excited this morning to bring to you one of the most interesting people in South Africa and potentially the last great hope for South Africa. Following the publication of this book, The Accidental Mayor, about the journey that Herman Mashaba took as mayor of Johannesburg, managing a very difficult coalition. We know where that ended, and now Herman Mashaba has begun his own political journey with the People's Dialogue, and we are here today to quiz Herman Mashaba a little further on where that's going to take us and what that offers for South Africa. I have a second guest with me this morning, and that is Mark Sham from Suits and Sneakers, who will be my co-host, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but Mark recently posted something on social media which did go viral, in which he mentioned Herman Mashaba, and he's a perfect co-host. And yes, we are related. Mark is my nephew, for those that don't know. But sit back, enjoy. If you have a few questions for Herman Mashaba, please put them in, and we will, if we got time, get to those questions. But this is going to be an interesting hour. Hold on to your hats. Herman, welcome.
Yeah,
welcome here today. It's really great to have you.
Thank you very much, Mark, and the team for really inviting me to this very important engagement.
Well, we sure hope that we can help get your message across. And let's see, firstly, if we can kick off with a question I think everybody wants to know. Why are you doing this?
You know, if South Africans can just really be aware, and I think it's not something that I need to really teach to people or make them aware. Our country is in big trouble, not small trouble, real big trouble. In fact, we need to work hard. There's no doubt about that. But we need a little bit of luck. We need some wisdom to save us, because as you are aware, our economy it's in the doldrums. We've got one of the most sustainable unemployment in the world. Anyone to think that by end of this year we're going to end up with more people unemployed than employed? Do you want to live in a society like that? We live in a society where the World Bank has did a study that has proven that South Africa is the most unequal society in the world. We are known as, by people of the world, that South Africa is the most unequal society in the world. And the study was actually done post 1994. So we became more unequal during our democratic dispensation. We are known all over the world to be the most violent society in the world. We're getting close to 60 people being murdered on a daily basis. I don't know how many women get raped on a daily basis. So I think, you know, for me as a South African, and a privileged one, I regard myself to be privileged over the last almost 40 years when I decided to take the future of my future in my own hands. I honestly take myself to be privileged that to sit back and complain at dinner parties is not an option. And I decided, I'm a God-fearing person. I said, I've got to do something. This privileged position that the world has given me, I think I've got a role to play. And I thought to myself, let me help save South Africa from this virus. We've got two viruses that are facing us as a South Africa, as a country. The world, including South Africa, is faced with the virus called Corona, COVID-19, which I'm really quite hopeful that we will get the vaccine for it. But it's a short-term virus. But we're sitting with a bigger virus called the ANC. For as long as we have an organization called the ANC in power, this country is going to collapse. So my role and my responsibility is to work constitutionally to to destroy this virus, because this virus is the most dangerous virus the world the country has ever faced. Because people must understand, if South Africa collapses, what is happening in Zimbabwe now, or it has happened the last 15, 20 years, I can tell you, Zimbabwe will be like a Sunday school picnic. Yeah. So it is those fears that are driving me to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I really take my hat off to you. I just have to say, I think that it's no joke. Entering politics, I don't think you do it for the fun of it. So I really take especially being someone who was established in business before, you weren't a career politician at all. So you're coming from business space and now moving into this political space because of a conviction that you have. It's
interesting, Mark. People every day ask me, they say, do you enjoy this job? And I tell them, guys, tell me, there's just no way in the world that one can enjoy this job. This is a punishing job. I remember the 3 years as a mayor, actually waking up every morning was literally like going to war. Yeah. Literally was like going to war because of the corruption that I found, the patronage network, the sabotage of the administration. Thinking that they're sabotaging me. In the meantime, they were sabotaging service delivery, because I wasn't as a mayor there to serve myself. I was there to serve society. When you try and sabotage me, you're not sabotaging me, you're sabotaging society. But at the same time, as much as this is not an enjoyable job, but it's a most rewarding job. I honestly and truly believe to be a very privileged human being. And I say this with absolute humility, that I'm one of the most privileged human beings on earth. Why? Let me give you 3 scenarios of my life. I was born in almost abject poverty, brought up in a child-headed household. And then at the age of 22, I decided to go into business, and I was fortunate enough, reasonably successful. So by the time the New South Africa was born, I was already an established businessman. And just as I was about to retire, I get an opportunity to serve my country, something that I never thought would ever happen. So I really, for me, the job I'm doing, as much as it's punishing, I think it's a worthwhile project, because I need my children, I need my grandchildren, I need my neighbors' children to really live in a better South Africa than the one I was born under.
Now, I'd like to tell all of our viewers, if you want to get the whole story of the mountain that Herman had to climb in running Johannesburg, buy this book, read this book. It'll keep you awake at night to find out exactly what goes on currently in our political system. Nobody gets out of this looking good, but it is a great read, Herman, and well done to Michael Beaumont that chronicled it so well. And as we said when we were sitting outside discussing what we're going to do today, we're not going to go into a deep dive into the book. That is history that has served to give you the experience and the resolve to get you where you are today. We want to talk about Herman Mashaba going forward. I know that you have formed the People's Dialogue, which is the seeds of the political party, which will, as we see from your frequent media reports, is going to be launched in the local government election of 2021 and leading up to the national elections in 2024. Let's start here. Let's start at the end game. What does South Africa under President Herman Mashaba look like?
Lucky enough, when I made the decision to resign from the DA and subsequently the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, there was an outcry from South Africans asking me to start my own political party. But I then said to myself, firstly, do I have the mandate? Secondly, do these people share the same values as I do? I then asked my family to give me the resources as a gift to South Africa, where we run a CODESA. But the CODESA by civil society, because prior to the successful election of 1994, you remember we had CODESA at Captain Park. And if you look at, you fast forward to that CODESA outcomes, the politicians actually negotiated a good deal for themselves. Civil society, South Africans, we are the biggest losers. So I said to myself, let me start a CODESA, but this CODESA must be driven by civil society. Let civil society tell us what type of South Africa they want. And for me, in my family, I said, if we can get 500,000 engagements, it would really give us a sense. I'm really pleased. I was overwhelmed. 2.4 million submissions of people of South Africa saying, Mashaba, please form a political party. Form a political party based on these 5 core values. First one, we South Africans, we want a non-racial South Africa. We want a political party that is committed to driving 10, 15, 20 years down the line that South Africa must be a non-racial society. South Africans are saying, we've had enough of this nonsense called socialism and communism and government running businesses. We want the private sector to be the ones driving our economy, but we want the government to be there. That's why we want the rule of law. The government must create a conducive environment for businesses to play the role, particularly small businesses. If you look at the tripartite alliance of the ANC with COSATU has been, honestly, 90% for me responsible for the destruction of small business in this country because they came out with these draconian laws and they benefited out of this corruption that has really happened at the expense of closing down one factory after the other. Anyone can look at my resistance to COSATU over the last 20 years. When COSATU started coming out with these draconian laws, I challenged them that you are going to destroy businesses, and here are the results. So South Africans want to see the private sector playing the role in the economy. South Africans want to see social justice. We are known as a country, as I've indicated earlier on, that we are the most unequal society in the world. I think it's an embarrassment. It's a reflection. You can imagine you go to London or you go to Tokyo, coming out from a country that is known to be the most unequal society. Honestly, for me, it's an embarrassment. It's something I don't want to live in a society like that. South Africans are saying we want the rule of law. We are known, I've got friends all over the world where travel agents actually discourage them. Long before COVID, for the last few years, they discouraged people from visiting South Africa. People know South Africa to be this great country, but our crime rate is known all over the world. I mean, it's I'll be with my wife, will be whether in New York or in Tokyo or in Sydney. People talk about the level of rape in our country. I've got a daughter, 25 years old. Fortunately enough, she's been in the States for the last few years. And she didn't want to come back to South Africa. Fortunately enough, managed to convince her to come back because she says, my chances of being raped in this country are very high. And you rape a woman, you destroy her life for forever. So we are known as it. So look at unashamed how ANC has institutionalized corruption, where they're even proud to talk about it. The more you tell them, guys, we're facing corruption challenge, the more they steal. So South Africans are saying we want the government that's going to be committed to the rule of law. South Africans are saying we want an opportunity to change the electoral laws where we must elect the president directly. We must elect the mayor directly. We must elect the councillors, MPs. I can tell you on the 22nd of October, a day after I made an announcement, I made a presentation to Parliament. I went to Parliament to go and present to Home Affairs portfolio regarding their failure to control our borders. Honestly, it was we started at, I think, at about 9 o'clock. We finished just after 1. I think when I left there, we sat in the restaurant with my colleagues. I told them how I was traumatized by the quality of our MPs. I said, MPs, these are people actually tasked with the responsibility to design laws for the country. I'm telling you, when I first joined government and in council, I looked at majority of our councillors. I started questioning, how do these people actually become councillors? I can tell you, when I looked at the councillors in the city of Joburg and the parliamentarians, in terms of the quality, I found actually the councillors being even better quality. Now, these are the people who are supposed to come out with laws to run a successful country. That's the reason why we're sitting with hospitals that are failing us, police stations that are not working, criminal justice system that is totally captured, the civil service run by comrades. You know, the ANC to get a senior position in government, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. I mean, how do you run a country like that? So this high unemployment, economic performance, underperformance, it's not an accident. This is because people who are running our government have got absolutely no clue what they're doing. In fact, they are put there deliberately to go and loot. Their mandate is to go and loot. It's not to go and serve society. So South Africans are saying we need to sort this out. So this gives you an overall size, challenge that our party is going to be based on. And fortunately enough, these are submissions from 2.4 million South Africans. It's not me. And then after that, once we are released the report in sometime in May, we started an engagement. I put together a team of policy experts to engage civil society. Every single day, even last night, we had engagements with a team on land restitution. How must our government deal with this whole issue of land restitution? Yes. We've engaged judges, retired, some of them still on the bench, to say, how are we going to repair our legal system? How are we going to make it independent of political interference? Because the only way you can fight corruption and crime, you've got to let your criminal justice system be independent of political interference, so that whether it's a minister or the president or it's a sweeper, if they commit a crime, they must be punished. There must be consequences. Yes. Not today under ANC. You ask this level of looting. Yeah. But no corruption. I mean, as I've got an example in the city of Joburg, 6,000 cases that I've submitted that we were investigating to the value of 34 billion rands. 60 cases, so serious, given to the NPA 3.5 years ago. And
nothing.
The only way I know I will be able to get that when we've launched our political party on the 29th of this month. So in 3 weeks' time, we'll be launching our political party. One of the units we are going to set up is private prosecution. All these politicians who are today in cabinet, who are in parliament, who are sitting in the province and whatever, that NPA is not prepared to prosecute them. We will give them the chance to tell us why they're not prosecuting these cases. If they feel that they don't, they must give us a knowledge certificate. My team of lawyers are readying themselves. We've got enough evidence against these politicians. We're going to go after them, because that is where you've got to go. Not that we will. We're not interested in someone stealing bread from a supermarket. It's crime, but political leadership, if the head is rotten, that's where you start. So I'm going to go out putting together some of the top legal teams that are going to ensure that we hold the NPA and the Hawks accountable. They've got to tell us. If they are saying they don't have a case, that's fine. Then give it to us. The Constitution allows us to go for private prosecution. So I'm putting together a team, various teams, so that we can demonstrate to South Africans that we are serious about making sure that we bring back the rule of law.
Yeah, I just have to tell you, my heart's racing as I'm sitting here with you, because first and foremost, I'm just a South African citizen that is deeply concerned for where South Africa is at. And I think that sentiment is shared across the board. If you were to go survey South Africa right now, you would see that we are a frustrated nation. And actually all we're wanting, I think the collective, is just wanting the simplicities of government to work. And I think that you've nailed that. And I want to just tell you that as an independent, I am for you. And I say that I couldn't care what people think and how they think about it. I am for you. I represent myself here today. But I think that you've got a hard job ahead of you, and I think you know that. Because you are alluding to so many points that says that the system that our current government has created is very entrenched. It's deep. The roots are deep. So, one of the questions, as I started telling people that I was going to get the chance to interview you, a lot of the questions had a common denominator in them. For example, people said, so how is Herman going to go about getting the masses that usually vote for the ANC? Because we've had these people vote, even though the numbers have been declining for the ANC, there's a core portion of people who vote for them every single 5 years still. And so I guess my question would be to you, how would you go about strategically moving those people to stop voting for the ANC, and how do you get them to vote for you?
I think South Africans need to really be educated to really understand that ANC today it's in power not because of people who voted for them. ANC is in power because of people who stayed away from voting. But let me give you an example that perhaps some South Africans are not aware. Last year, elections, 18.5 million South Africans stayed away from voting. 18.5 million, as compared to 17.4 million who voted.
Wow.
And ANC was voted in by just under 10 million. So then who put ANC into government? It's not the 9 million ANC people who voted ANC. ANC, if you look at ANC from 2014 to 2019, lost 1.5 million people. 1.5 million. Look at the number of people who voted for ANC in 2014 compared to 2019. They lost 1.5 million. I mean, losing 1.5 million voters is not a child's play. That shows South Africans, including ANC, people are really tired, are angry with the ANC. And no one knows, I don't even need an academic person or researcher to tell me ANC will lose at least between 15 and 20% come any next election. But at the end of the day, what is the voting population of South Africa? 26, 27 million South Africans. And that is for me the low-hanging fruits. What I need to do is our marketing campaign, our electioneering, it's actually to focus on these South Africans who have never taken the responsibility. People who undermine their power to actually change the country for the future of our children. So we need to really get this 19 million South Africans to go out and vote. Register first and go out and vote. If we just get half of those people, plus getting the another 2 million that the ANC is going to lose, that other parties are going to lose, without any doubt, come 2024 will be a government in majority.
I mean, so, I love hearing that. Because I think one of the biggest problems that we've had as citizens for the last while is that the alternatives haven't been great. As in, who do you vote for? A part of me thinks like, also sometimes a lot of people who have continued to vote for the ANC have done so because who else should they vote for? There's still very much a historic connection to parties. So the DA, whether people like it or not, are seen kind of like the white party. I know this within my circles. If I'm honest with you, people will say, last year you'd say, who are you voting for? Well, the DA. Well, you don't want to take the vote away from the DA or the opposition, or we're voting for them, because they were the white party. This mentality is broken. But when I look at it, the alternatives are bad. I would never vote for the ANC in a million years because of their track record. Not because they're a black government and I'm white, because of their actions that they've taken. That's why I'm very open to say that. That's why I wouldn't vote for the ANC. But let me tell you, I wouldn't vote, and this is just me, I'm talking totally on behalf of me. I wouldn't vote for the DA right now because they've lost their way. And I refuse to just vote for a white party because I'm white. So then who is the alternative? So the other day when I made this video, I had no clue that I was going to even have this opportunity to speak to you. I was so frustrated as a citizen for where we're at. I'm just so tired of what's going on in this country, and I'm tired of feeling bad for wanting better. And at the end of the video, I said, before you and I are going to meet, I said, I think the glimmer of hope is Herman Mashaba. And I want to just say, I said that because I think that you are perfectly suited, not just because you're the perfect black candidate. I think that you come from business, so you understand the things that you're speaking to speak to me. Free market principles, right? Justice, breaking down these corruption. These are basic things that we have to solve. So I want to ask you some questions, and I'm sure Mike has some too, because there are some hardcore questions that we have to tackle in this country. Like, I would love to understand your take on something like BEE. Where's your head at? And I'm not trying to put a gun to your head.
No,
you know what I mean? I really want to know.
Let's have a frank discussion.
Absolutely.
These are serious matters.
What is your take on BEE? Has it been working? Has it not? And how would you go about it?
I mean, I'm sure my views are known all over for many years. Even before I could ever think that I'll one day become a public servant. You know, when the ANC came out with policies to govern BU and calling it a broad-based black economic empowerment, they started a commission chaired by Cyril Ramaphosa. You know, I believed them, and I thought, because they were talking about broad-based black economic empowerment, spending money in the education of our people, supporting small businesses and so forth. Here is it. How long have we had that commission? Who are the people who benefited out of this? ANC cadres to a large extent. Broad-based was never. So I don't really subscribe to the ANC BE. I believe in social justice. And let me give you an example that South Africans, perhaps even with you guys, might not really be aware about me. And I think it's a practical example of what I did during the dark days of this country's history. I started business at the age of 22 as a commission sales rep. I bought a car and selling products from the hood of my car. 1983 discovered a huge opportunity, a gold mine. Sold hair products for one company here in Johannesburg, manufacturing hair products for the black market. In 19 months, I was already the top salesman. But I then said to myself, my goodness, I'm not going to make money for this white guy forever. And as a commercial sales rep, I mean, I'm developing this guy. I've already made his brand number one. But this guy, I'm at his mercy. He can get rid of me anytime. I had no protection whatsoever. And there was no way that this guy would ever ask me to be his partner. I said, you know what, let me take the destiny in my own life. But now I was a trader. I'm a born trader. It's in my DNA. That's why I love the capitalist system. I then decided, you know what, I must make these products myself. Firstly, the law says no, you can't go into business as a black man. I said, you know what, PW Botha is not going to determine my destiny. I'm going to go into business. I'm going to manufacture these products. I approached a white Afrikaner who happened to work for this company as a production manager. He was just an employee. And for me, you can imagine, 1984, on a commission, I was earning at least 3 to 4 times better salary than what Johan was saying. Johan was a production manager. I was a commission sales rep. I took a chance. I had nothing to lose. And you can imagine 1984 for a black person and white to sit like this was almost next to treason. I will be arrested 1984 under PW Botha. For us, black and white, to sit like this, the security branch will be at our houses. Now, imagine, I took a chance to approach this guy. I said, Johan, you know what, you're a brilliant guy who can make this stuff. We're making money for someone else. You know, Joseph and I can sell this product. Joseph was another black guy that I recruited. I said, Joseph and I can make this stuff. We can sell this stuff, and you're the one who's making it. We're making money for someone else. Would you mind if we get the cash? We can start our own business. He says, guys, if you can get the money, he says, I don't have the money. If you guys can get the money, I'm in. Okay. Then we went, Joseph and I. Now we've got a production guy. We went, approached Walter Dube, the well-known businessman in Mabopane. we approached Alta, and you can imagine that time I'm 23, 24, approached a successful, well-known businessman through his wife. His wife was running a hairdressing salon. We said to Mrs. Dube, can you introduce us to your husband? We've got a proposal. We told her what we want to do. Introduced us to Alta Dube, took us 2 meetings. Alta says, guys, how much do you want? We worked out how much we needed, 30,000 rands.
Wow.
January of 1985, we started a business. 4 of us, 25% each. 3 black guys and a white Afrikaner from Boksburg. Oh, wow. 4 equal partners.
Yes.
A few years later, because Alta managed to get us 1 Indian guy from Lodium as an auditor. A few years later, with the growth of our business, I needed a full-time financial director because our business was growing at a phenomenal rate. My wife was doing a great job, but I decided to, you know what, let me get someone from outside so that other partners must feel comfortable. I got an Indian guy, a chartered accountant, running his own firm, literally brought him to come in and work with us in the 80s. Wow. So getting South Africans to work together, I did it during the dark days of this country's history. South Africans are willing, but you don't have to really force people to marry or be partners. What you do, use incentives to create create an inclusive society. Yes. You know, you don't need punishment. South Africans are willing to work together, but we're going to use encouragement so that I think 20 years or so down the line. Yes. And it cannot really be that, Mark, I force you to have someone to be your partner. You decide if you don't want to have a partner, it's your business. It's not up to the government. Yes. But the government will encourage that and support those businesses. Yes. Use incentives.
So now you've got to trust a salesman who sells hair products when he's got no hair himself. then you know somebody can sell. But Herman, just to go a little deeper into this, because obviously there's many of the people watching this. You know, we've heard similar things before, in actual fact, from your previous party, and then they backed BE legislation within Parliament. Will the legislation be taken off the books if under President Mashaba?
I can tell South Africans, if you give me outright majority in 2024, it'll be one of the laws that we need to take it off. Because if we're serious about economic growth, we're serious about building this an inclusive economy, we need to take out laws that are hindering, are blocking economic growth, because the current B legislation is unfortunately discouraging investments in this country, particularly killing small businesses. You can imagine if you're a black guy or even some of the black guys who are not most of them actually, ANC has destroyed black entrepreneurship. I don't know if you guys have got an idea how black entrepreneurship used to be vibrant when the PW vote and the National Party did not want us to go into business. And what happened come 1994, ANC destroyed all that through the patronage network, because then made it easy for people a culture of entitlement and say, look, so we killed entrepreneurship, came out with this draconian laws through COSATU, closing down official black business. I mean, I can tell you the number of black businesses which were closed by the ANC with that draconian laws.
Yeah. Because I have a very strong point of view on this, but I wanted to hear you first. There's a man that I follow that I love, an American guy. He's actually Indian, but he's moved to America, and his name's Naval Ravikant. And he talks about this concept that I love. He talks about the idea that we should strive for equal opportunity, but not equal outcome. Because equal opportunity is the great way to try redress the atrocities of our past. But when you try to create equal outcome, you can only do so by violence. You can only do so by forcing. And I think in this country, one of the biggest mistakes we've made at a political level, but also at a strategy level, is we are constantly trying to force equal outcome. If you, in a free market, if you give people the freedom to make different decisions, they will need to experience different consequences of that.
Absolutely.
So you can't force people to come through to the end. And I think this is not against black versus white, it's about
it's a human nature.
It's free market principles.
No, look at human development over the last 2,000 years. Show me any example of where forces worked.
Yes.
Yes.
It goes against human nature.
You use coercion. Successful nations are on the basis of using incentives, using encouragement, using education, to ensure that you come out. 26 years down the line, go into any township today, you'll battle to find a plumber, an electrician. We used to have plumbers, electricians during the dark days of apartheid. Today, you look for a plumber.
Yeah.
This morning, actually, my wife went to Amaskral to go and assist one of the family members because their house under this covert. We said, as a family, go and assist them to improve their house. We know how difficult it is to really get a reliable local person who can really do the job. These are practical things that
this is happening.
That ANC has really failed. So I'm saying is we take over the country. I had already set up that structure in the city of Johannesburg, working with the University of Johannesburg to provide the academic side and encourage the private sector, raise the 32 billion rands of redevelopment of the inner city. And one of the conditions of that was artisan training. So that 5, 10, 20 years down the line, this country must have an abundance. Every street must have a plumber, must have an electrician, must have a tiler, and so forth.
Yes.
Who
are skilled at what they do.
Skilled at what they do. But the only way you can do that, we've got universities that are willing to do it. But now you need a private sector so that people can get practical training. What I discovered during when I was campaigning. Totally shocked. You'd really wish it was a movie. Alexander Technical College, the principal there, on 2 occasions, very worried man, where government is actually pushing him to just pass these kids. Technical training without having technical training.
Yes.
You train someone as a plumber or as an electrician, but they don't have places where they can go and serve internship, and then government is actually just pushing them to say no, pass them.
And I don't want to. It's amazing.
It's scary.
This is Mark. Sorry, I just have to jump in because it just ties in with what you said. Is my whole business and my whole life is dedicated toward education. Now I follow your page on Facebook. I follow you on Twitter, and I can't tell you how deeply passionate. Anybody who's been following me for the longest time knows I'm into this education thing. And I have a very simple mentality that it all starts with education. If people don't have the ability to add value to an economy and get money reciprocated, they've got nothing. I want to understand, probably the thing that would swing me the biggest toward you is your approach to education. So in 2024, Herman Mashaba becomes president. What does he do? What do you do to education? What does education look like under you? And then I'll hand over to you, Mark.
First of all, immediately close down or fire Bladman's Monday and Enchima Mtsekwa. You don't need 2 ministries of education. Just one ministry. In terms of the overall cabinet, I don't really believe South Africa needs more than 25 ministers. We don't need deputies. One minister of education. This minister must focus on education from early childhood centers. I want every child, when they're conceived, not when they're born, when they're conceived, already the parents must know which ED center, proper ED center where they must go to, so that they start getting education from there. We've got to make sure that we invest in ECD centers to really prepare ourselves for university or technical type of training. We've got to invest in our facilities. Yesterday, I actually tweeted, I saw ANC with this agency called National Youth Development Agency. People were talking about it, and I tweeted, I said, if I have my way, that agency, I will close it overnight. And the billions of monies that you are using to provide employment employment for the ANC cadres, you know what? All these mud schools in the Eastern Cape, Soweto. You know how many schools are closed today in Soweto with no infrastructure? No. Okay. Parents, I've got family members where kids have got to be woken up at 4 in the morning, get into these full taxis, coming into schools in the suburbs. When the schools in Soweto are closing, we need to ensure that those schools are reopened, we capacitate them, get the best teachers, and then we tell SATU in particular, this teachers the union, they stay out of our schools. They can represent them, but I'm not going I'm not going to subject the education and the future for our children to the unions. Yeah. We'll let the unions know that we take over. We're not going to be against unions representing their members. They've got a right. But at the end of the day, us as government, we are going to represent society, including the teachers. So we are not going to subject the future of our children to SATU, who decide who becomes the principal and the teachers. They sell jobs and so forth. You know,
so we're not getting to the root of the problem.
Yes.
And the root of the problem to me right now is that the ANC has systematically downgraded the quality of education, 1. 2, we haven't invested in infrastructure within schooling systems. We haven't invested in teachers. Teachers are getting the training of the teachers, the quality of the teachers, and then most importantly, we just keep, and at university level, we keep lowering these levels, and it's madness.
Let me tell you the whole nonsense of a 30% pass overnight will do away. If you pass, the best you can do is a 50%. That's a minimum we'll accept you as a pass rate. This 30% pass rate, in fact, you know, sometimes I feel some of these ANC people who are responsible for this must be charged for human rights violations. Honestly, because if you look at how many lives they've destroyed, I think, honestly, ANC, sometimes I feel one must charge them for what they did is crime against humanity. Yeah. Honestly, you look at how many lives they've destroyed.
I really agree.
Ever since ANC took over this government, every year you've got almost 1 million kids starting school. But by the time 12 years later they write the exam, they write grade 12, under 500,000. So how many lives have ANC actually destroyed? Is this not a crime against humanity? Yeah. Honestly, sometimes I get so angry. Sometimes people don't understand why I get so angry, why a democratic government can do some of the worst atrocities.
I agree.
But I think it's up to South Africans to remove them constitutionally. We don't have to use violence. Let us use our vote and appeal to every South African of a voting age. Please make sure that you go out and register. Please make sure that on the day of elections, please let's vote ANC out with an outright majority so that we can fast track the development. But one thing I want South Africans to know, the damage that ANC has caused on South Africa over the last 26 years is not going to take, I can't do it in 5 years, we can't do it in 10 years. Yeah. This is a 20, 30 year kind of program. But we can start laying the foundation.
Because there's such low-hanging fruit that you can get. But I love that you're being realistic about it.
Just looking at, you mentioned social justice, and one of the things that pops out, and Sintu Tom has raised the issue around land. The genie's out of the bottle, the question around land and land ownership has been raised. A lot of people are asking it where it just seems to be a question out there that the EFF raised, the ANC didn't want to be left behind. Now there's a question mark around land. What's your view around land and land ownership?
One thing for sure is that, for me, I'll put every cent behind anyone interfering with the land that I own. Because what the ANC and the EFF are proposing is that they want to take my property, it must be owned by the state. I can tell I'll put every cent behind it. I think our constitution sufficiently deals with the question of land restitution. That's why I was telling you yesterday, my policy guys were engaging with policy experts that can assist us to come out with, to operate within the legal framework. Absolutely, people lost their land for over many years. And we need to really find ways where government land can really be used to really address these issues. We can address where people are not using the land. The Constitution allows you. If someone has got a piece of land and for the last 10, 15 years is not really using it, and he bought it during the apartheid days or colonialism, whatever, is not using it, and there's a social need, the Constitution allows you to say, look, you go to this person and you negotiate. If you can't come out with a price, the law allows you to expropriate it, but it must be for social good. It cannot really be because I need to really buy favors and give this to politicians to go and set it up, go and have parties and so forth. It must be for social good. There's a housing development that is required. Here's a piece of land, and the owner bought it in 1940 when obviously taking advantage of apartheid, and they're not using it. Yeah. The Constitution totally allows the government to expropriate that land. Yeah. But as I say, what is important, it must be for social good. Yeah.
And this is not rocket science to me, that if I was an outside investor and you are threatening property rights, for example, in a country like this, I wouldn't want to be putting my money there. Well, so if you want to attract external foreign investment, you have to make, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier for me, that we really just, government's job is to create a stable environment that is conducive. It's actually to get out of the way most of the time, but create a fair environment. You know, I look at so many of the problems that we have even today. It's that we don't fight for what's fair. We fight for a system that benefits this one or this one. You just actually at the heart, all I want is a party that will say, here's what's fair. Let's see what's fair for the masses. White, black, Indian, Asian, it doesn't matter. What is fair? It really resonates with me. Mark?
Yeah, now, Herman, let's talk about this coming election. The one thing you know very well is coalitions. I think it seems to me that the first objective is to get the ANC below 50%. Is that correct?
Well, way below 30%, or in fact, completely to destroy this virus. But for me, my first prize is to make sure that we find a vaccine.
Yes.
To make sure that we to completely destroy this virus, because this virus has got absolutely nothing to add to society. That's my first prize.
It is there.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have to really find that vaccine, but it's going to take time. Talking about coalition, I think if you look at, I was really fortunate enough to be put into this difficult situation to run a 7-way coalition arrangement. And I embraced it because it was the wish and the will of the people. It wasn't something that anyone can do anything about it. And I embraced it. And I was really lucky that I was put in a coalition arrangement because, Mark, I keep telling South Africans that if DA had received more than 50%, I can tell you my resignation would not have lasted more than 3 months, because the DA had a wrong impression that I was there to serve the party than serve society. They started interfering with me literally from day one, wanting me to push the party than actually saving society. So God protected me by a coalition arrangement. I was not accountable to the DA. By the time DA actually started conniving with the ANC to take me out of government, was when I then made it really very clear to them that, guys, forget about even getting reports from me every month, because your arrogance is totally unacceptable. Because it is about you complain about the ANC being interested in the party than society, but you are worse than the ANC. You can ask them. Tsepo Mhlongo was who's actually the DA regional chairperson. I called him one day after abusing my guys because he wanted me to come and present to them. And I had a very important government meeting that day than going to attend to party political nonsense. I called him to my office a day or two later. I said, Tsepo, just know this. From today onwards, until I finish my term, I'm no longer prepared to present my government programs to the DA. I said, I will want to present it to the coalition partners. So I said, if you want the meeting with me, call all the parties that voted me into power. I'll be happy to present to all of you. Not because I'm not a DA mayor. I'm a mayor of a coalition arrangement. That's what I wanted to get them to really understand, that your arrogance of asking me to put the party ahead of society. I'm not prepared. Yes. I'm not one of that. I said, you guys decide. And that's when they started a plan to remove Musi Maimane and ultimately work with Jeff Makubu and the ANC to remove me out of power. So when this matter came to my attention, I said, look, have your party back, because obviously, unfortunately, at the moment you serve at the behest of political parties. That's yes. Why our people are saying, the 2.4 million South Africans are saying, we want the mayors, public reps to be directly elected by us so that they're accountable to us, not the political party.
Yes.
Right. Now, there's obviously one sort of thing that sticks with many people as being a bit uncomfortable, is it felt to many that you developed a very uncomfortably cozy relationship with the EFF. Right? Now, the EFF openly, the leadership would call you the better devil, which is not exactly a compliment, right? Mm-hmm. And the leadership would talk badly about you, but on the ground you had a good relationship with the EFF councillors, by the sounds of things.
One thing I'll really give credit to the EFF at local government election. I've worked with them for 3 years. When we look at the city of Johannesburg with over 200 informal settlements, half of the informal settlements, are you aware that people don't have toilets? Not water, toilets. Sure. I can take you on it. People don't have toilets in informal settlements, which have been there for 15, 20 years, named after prominent South Africans. And when I took over and realized all this, we needed to really correct this. And the party that supported me, EFF, Freedom Front Plus, and other parties. The two parties which were against those policies, the ANC and the DA. And yes. That really created a problem, and for me, this was not negotiable. I will invite the DA when we'll come out with a budget to say people can't live without toilets. We're going to invest in toilets. Let's give those people toilets. Let's go and give them water. When we go and deliver that, I'll invite the DA. They wouldn't show up. EFF will be there to appreciate this. And then obviously EFF will start congratulating me for doing this. And the DA unhappy, they'll tell me, no, in the suburbs, look at the grass. There's one street in my suburb that's not working. You're not fixing those street lights. So, I mean, you can imagine we start having petty issues like this. And I ended up EFF calling me their mayor, and then DA would take offense to this. But I said, but guys, look at, you know better than the EFF in terms of our program. Yes. Do you guys have a problem where, aren't you feel proud as a DA to go and give dignity to people? They says, no, these people didn't vote for us. Why must we take our voters' money when spend it with people who are not voting for us? And I said to them, as any DA person in Federal Council, how many times I said to them that they're insulting me when they tell me that I'm taking their voters' money to vote to go and spend it in.
I said exercise humanity.
I said to them, you know, it's a deep insult. I said, can you please ask your councillors? I know they are sent by some of you to insult me, because it's an insult.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they were not prepared to give up. They actually took the matter to a next level, wanted to work with the ANC, because for some reason, ANC hates poor people. I mean, they're prepared to punish poor people to a level where they take away their dignity.
There is a cause and effect problem here, as I see it. Number one is that there's nobody who would deny that people deserve humanity, that people deserve toilets, electricity, etc. It's just inhumane, to use the term, to not offer it. However, there's a however, and it's, I can't go, you mentioned London, New York, Tokyo, I can't arrive in these places tomorrow and just put up a shack, right?
Absolutely.
So now we have a situation of, do we service those shacks, or do we say that they shouldn't be there in the first place?
Well, it's a very good question, Mark, and I think very, very important to address as a country, because it's something that I raised, I remember on the 1st of December 2016. If you look at how Home Affairs has failed this country, that's why on the 22nd of October last year I went to Parliament. You look at that presentation. My presentation is actually titled The Dysfunctional State of Home Affairs. If you go into all these informal settlements or go into these hijacked buildings, look at the big number of foreign nationals who are here with no documentation whatsoever. And this is not a municipal responsibility. Yes. Home Affairs is not a competency of a municipality. And I'm sure there's no South African who can deny the fact that I've been raising these matters in public, appeal to Home Affairs for the intervention, because the city of Johannesburg attracts 3,000 at the time, 3,000 every single month. And housing is not also, I want people of South Africa to know, housing is not a competency of a municipality. Housing is a national competency. So your role as a municipality, government gives you grant, and then they tell you to go and build the so-called RDP houses and give tenders. Tenders are normally won by these tenderpreneurs. Go and build the most appalling type of housing structures. So you sit with that problem. So housing backlog in the city of Joburg at the time when I took over was 300,000. I can tell you right now must be even more. Now, what do? That's why I went on a massive campaign. Firstly, I said to Home Affairs, please assist us to control our borders. Just please help us to control our borders. Went out, convinced everyone, including the EFF, to say, let us get the private sector, take back these hijacked buildings. Let's get the private sector to build affordable accommodation for our people. Because the ANC expects us to build RDP houses 70 kilometers away from job opportunities. You know, some of these RDP houses that ANC has built, people to come here to work, they had to sometimes take 2-3 taxis to come to work. When the city, that city, Mark, 26 years ago, was one of the most modern cities in the world. Today, it's a slum with the infrastructure. So I think you don't have to really be a rocket scientist that even a municipality can play a role. The private sector is willing to build affordable accommodation for our people. The private sector is willing to build industrial areas for our people. But unfortunately, ANC legislation and the officials, because the officials who make the decisions are not there to serve society. They're there to assist the ANC to loot. Yeah. So that is why, for me, it's important, as soon as you take over government, you've got to remove this patronage network. Put in professional public service that must serve society. When you tell them, guys, let's take back the city, let's attract investments in our cities. Factories that are lying empty, people have abandoned them. Let's offer them to the private sector. Let's employ our people, create job opportunities, more especially next to where people actually live. I mean, you don't have to really have a mind like Einstein to figure these things out. It's just the willingness.
It strikes me, Herman, as in your position where the system is so broken. So then you get drafted in as the mayor, but you have to work within this coalition government. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't to the public. And I'm just saying from my end, because a lot of comments that I got when I posted about you were like, yeah, but ask him about his connection to the EFF. And my immediate response, just as a citizen, was, what did you expect? He was in a coalition government. Now, I've seen in the last few months that if you take a stand for something, you immediately, like if you take a stand on any matter, you are immediately for something and against something, and people attack you. So in my video a few weeks ago, I simply said something, and I don't want to get into this intensely, but I just want to use it as an example. I said, I believe, I recognize that as a white person, I have experienced a certain amount of privilege. I didn't ask other people to please agree with me. I was just referring to me. Do you know how many people I got attacked by, white people, because I just said, I just feel that I've experienced the element of white privilege. So I think what happens is you're damned if you do and damned if you don't sometimes. If you stand up and you work within a coalition government and you actually say, yes, I may not be part of the EFF, but in this instance, that policy is better, like it makes sense that I work with the EFF and they're not working with me. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Mark, let me give you practical examples for the viewers and the people of South Africa to understand why I said DA was the most difficult partner. You know, first, as soon as I came into government, discovered abuse of our security and the cleaners. They were given to hyenas. The city would be paying 14,000 rands for a security guy, but the poor guy will get 3,500 rands a month. Yes. When the EFF brought this to my attention, I immediately, my first State of the Nation address, I gave the city manager and the administration, I said, I want these people by the 1st of December 2018. I was giving them enough time. I said, I want all these people to really start with the security guys because it's big numbers. Then once you've run the process successfully, we come to the cleaners. We do away with the tenderpreneurs, give dignity to the people. You know how COSATU allowed this? It's unbelievable. Allowed the hyenas to employ our people without an appointment letter, without getting a salary slip every month. They'll work for these companies for 10, 15 years. Go and ask the security and the cleaners. They work for these hyenas for 10, 15 years. Under COSATU's watch, never had an appointment letter, never had a pay slip every month. They used to be paid on the day when the hyena did not have time to go and drive their Maserati or something. So they never knew when they would. So you come across a system like this. I said, no, we're going to correct it. When I presented this to the DA, the DA says, no, insourcing is not our policy. You know what I said to them? I said, go and make it your policy. Yes. Here in the city of Johannesburg, we are going to do it. I said, go and make it your policy, and you have a great opportunity. You are running a lot of municipalities. Go and do it, including Cape Town, because then you can go and give the people dignity. Yeah. When I came out with a project to ask the private sector to build affordable accommodation for our people, when I presented it to the EFF in the beginning says, no, this is not our policy. I sat with them, I showed them, like I did with the...
make it your policy.
Yeah. And then the EFF said, you know what, Mayor, we know ways that we can allow our people to live under those conditions when we can have the private sector built for our people because we don't have the money. Please go ahead. Now, tell me, is it criminal to work with the EFF? Yeah. If anyone wants to accuse me of working with the EFF, I can tell you I will work with them on those bases as long as it is for public good. I'm not prepared to really work with people who are saying that people cannot get dignity. It is for that reason, and I remember so many times I used to defend the DA in the Western Cape when they would be accused of ignoring black communities and so forth. I thought it's a budgetary constraint. Now, here in the city of Johannesburg, where it was not it is the willingness. It is not their policy. So that basically means for me, DA black communities are not their target market.
Herman, if you don't mind, we're having such a good time. I know we said an hour, but this isn't TV. We don't have to end if we can just keep you here for a few more minutes.
Now I'm happy.
Okay, so Tata Tule raises a good issue, still sticking with social justice. Where do you stand with income grants, basic income grants, single mothers, etc.? Where do you stand? Do you see that as a...
Look, it is not a sustainable, long-term sustainable project. And I think for me, it'll be evil to drop it overnight. And how you do away with a social grant system that's already in place is to encourage commercial activity in the country. Because when people work, then automatically then they don't qualify any longer. So once you can start getting investments in this country,
lower unemployment, there's no need for it.
But I think I'm not prepared to say to people overnight, you don't get anything when there's no activity. What I would do is encourage business activity. Yes. I can give an example. I was born and raised in Amanskral in the 70s. The apartheid government, the Botswana government, put up a massive modern industrial area. Today, Babelefi. When I grew up, in my community, in that whole area of Amanskral, people who did not work were those who did not want to work.
Yes.
Were we exploited? Our people exploited? Absolutely. But our people had dignity because they woke up every morning to go to work and they had the skills. If I look at my sister who brought me up 13 years my senior, managed to buy the piece of land in Temba, build their own home. And I'm not talking about people being exploited because today we cannot allow it. There's the Mabelech industrial area, Haramko industrial area, Mohwasi, Kotwa. These industrial areas we need to revitalize them, yes, like you did in the city of Joburg. You will see as part of my policy offering in terms of getting investments in South Africa. I want to ask people of the world to say, guys, we've got factories broken over the years by the ANC, but the infrastructure is there. I want you to invest in renovating these factories. But the more money we'll invest, the many people, tell us how many people you will employ, will give you this factory for almost next to nothing for 50, 60 years or so, so that we can get South Africa as a manufacturing base. South Africa, in the 70s and 80s, we used to be one of the most modern manufacturing base in the world during the apartheid days.
Yes.
Today, South Africa is one of the most corrupt. We moved from manufacturing to corruption. Yeah. So we can revitalize this. It's possible. China is expensive I can tell you if all of us as South Africans can really buy into a dream of making South Africa the manufacturing hub of the world, I can tell you we can beat China because we've got the infrastructure. Yeah. We've got the world that China is it's more expensive than South Africa, so we can actually attract investments for factories. Everyone, including Chinese factories, come and invest in South Africa. As long as we give you conditions. Tell us how much you're going to invest. Tell us how many people you're going to employ during the process, and we'll give incentives to do that.
So using free market principles to create the direction in the right way.
And then what we'll do once people are working, earning 8,000 rands, unlike getting a 350. Tell me, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. Yeah. So basically, because as soon as you find employment, then you fall off. You fall off
social grant.
Social grant. So obviously, for ANCs, they are thinking obviously trained by the Soviet Union thinking. It's about control. Don't give people education. Make them reliant on the state. So they use that approach, not realizing that we live in a democratic space, that you're going to run out of money somewhere along the line. I don't understand how come they did not learn from the Russians. Unfortunately, Russians didn't get a chance to unteach the ANC what they taught them for many years. Because that's a fact. Because from the late 50s, 60s, when the Russians wanted South Africa, they started teaching them this thinking of making people dependent on the state. And the Soviet Union collapsed in 1989, and unfortunately, fortunately, FW de Klerk and banned political parties and so forth. ANC were taken by surprise. They still had this mentality of Stalin type of thinking that make people poor, make them dependent on the state, and then us as the leadership, we enjoy all the lives. We steal, we get involved in corruption. That's all they know. And you can't change them. That's why I'm saying we need a vaccine to completely destroy this virus.
Yes, I've got to tell you one of my favorite stories which illustrates this really well about the South African politician that gets invited to the South American counterpart. And he said, come state visit, you land there, you come, and the plane arrives, this cavalcade meets him, and he said, we're going to have dinner at my house. And they go up the hill, and there's this beautiful palace on the hill. And South African politician new in government says, this is fantastic. This is brilliant. He says, that's nothing. Let's go outside and have a drink on my balcony. They have a beautiful balcony overlooking the city, fine wine in lovely glasses. He says, but comrade, I know what you earn. How can you afford this beautiful house? And he points down, he says, do you see that highway down there? And the guy says, yes. He says, 10%. So 2 or 3 years go by, the South African politician invites his same South American counterpart to South Africa. And he says, well, the cavalcade meets the plane, they drive up into the hills, beautiful, unbelievable mansion, marble, gold, everything sitting over there. And he said, well, let's go out on the balcony. They're having the most fantastic French champagne sitting over there. He says, comrade, how did you get an even bigger house than me? You've only been here for 2 years. He says, well, he says, look down there. Do you see that highway down there? He says, no. He says, 100%. And I think that sort of sums up where we are at the moment.
Which is really very unfair. That's why I'm saying, honestly feel and believe that South Africans need to really wake up and find. And this vaccine is so easy to find. We don't need scientists. We just need. We don't need scientists. We just need the 18 million South Africans who did not go out and vote to go and register as a matter of agency to register, and on the day of election, you go out and vote. I can tell you that South Africa is safe. Otherwise, if we allow this virus to spread, we've got major problems. Okay. What is happening in Zimbabwe will look like a Sunday school picnic. And I can really want to warn South Africans that if you are not going to take personal responsibility for the collapse of this country, then you're going to have children, your grandchildren. I don't know what you're going to say to them when they live in a country where they're subjected to ZANU-PF type environment.
Yeah. I'd like to leave with two from my side. A question that's come up. Rona McGaffin put it. There's a few people that have also put this. Obviously, your experience and your recent experience has been in Johannesburg, but is the intention that the People's Dialogue is a national movement? Or is it based specifically around this area?
No, the People's Dialogue is national. We can give you stats. I don't have them on top of my head to really show you the participation of the 2.4 million South Africans. However, and I'm really making a special appeal to South Africans. We've got to be strategic in tackling this virus. This virus needs some brains to be able to destroy it. There are no ways that I can put together a machine to contest all the 278 municipalities next year. It's totally impossible. So I'm asking people of South Africa to say, let's go for municipalities that are winnable. And I've already identified 3. That's Johannesburg, Tshwane, and Ekurhuleni. Those ones definitely we are going to contest because we know that those are highly winnable. Others areas, we are asking South Africans to bear with us. Let's work together to do studies to see if we can win these municipalities. But you can play a role, you as a South African. We've really designed a beautiful, easy system where people can register. Because the more people we can have as members of our party in a particular municipality, already we know how many voters are there. So if we've got a number that can demonstrate to us that we will win this municipality, we will go into that municipality. Also on condition that we can find ethical leadership. That's very important because we cannot afford to just go and put in someone because we've got the voters and also get the resources. However, we will go national in 2024. I think 2024 will give us enough time to really prepare to eventually bury this virus.
I think that I love how you've thought about it, and I think that your job, and I'm saying this subjectively, is really to find the A team. Because it's not a one-man person, isn't it? You need to go, and I think that there are people that are willing. We have more than enough capable, competent, intelligent, talented people in the country who want to add, who want to help, but they need to feel like they're part of something that's moving in the right direction. If you can find a way to tackle those municipalities and build an A team of people around you, so that it's not just about Herman Mashaba, but you've got quality people around you and you've got a team, I think that you will knock it out of the park.
And I can tell you South Africa is not short of talent.
No.
South Africa is not short of talent. It's just that I think deliberately ANC decided to sideline. It's a very vindictive organization.
Yes.
The only way you can really be on the top echelons of the party, you've got to have skeletons, small skeletons. You remember Batabile Dlamini made it clear that to be on the top skeletons of the ANC, you've got to have the small skeletons. And I'm telling you, small guys, you've got to have serious issues for you to qualify to be on the top.
And it shows.
And that's something that for me, I cannot live with skeletons. I need, and South Africa has got people with no skeletons. So for us, the condition of you being around us is that you don't have to have skeletons.
I just want to say from my end, I don't have a question as much. Just I want to tell you that it's been really insightful sitting with you, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to hear your points of view. I'm not scared to take a stand. I'm totally behind you. I'm very happy to do anything to help you get this right. Instead of asking you a question, what I'd love to do from my end is I'd love for you to address, is this the camera? I'd love for if you had the stage, if you had all 57, 58 million people, I think it is, listening to you right now, and you had 2 minutes to give them a message, I would love to know what that 120-second message is.
Thank you very much, I think, for the opportunity. I actually like to appeal to people of South Africa, and I think people must understand we are facing a huge, huge crisis, and it is of a long-term nature. But this project needs a starting point. A starting point is around South Africans making sure that we bring in a new government into power. And a new government that we must bring in, we must not bring it through the barrel of a gun. Let's bring it through a ballot box. So I'm appealing to South Africans, those who felt that they did not have an option. Please, I'm appealing to you, not for me. Do it for your children, do it for your grandchildren. Make sure that you are registered. Make sure that on the day of election, go out and vote. We need outright majority because we must understand ANC will do everything possible to steal our elections. We need volunteers to make sure that at every voting station we've got our volunteers, qualified people to ensure that we get an outcome that is free and fair so that we can start repairing this country. Please don't underestimate your power as an individual because your one vote is one vote that will ensure that your grandchildren inherit a better South Africa than the one that you and I were born under.
Herman Mashaba, that's fantastic. People, I presume, can get more information at peoplesdialogue.org.za.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to thank you for joining us this morning. Mark, thank you. To everybody that joined us over the last nearly hour and a half, I hope you see that there is some hope in South Africa. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be back with more insightful stuff, and I'm sure we'll hear from Herman Mashaba again in the State of the Nation. Thank you very much and enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.